When we first discovered language as a child, our initial focus was on its use and function, for it was ultimately to communicate our needs and engage with the world around. Then we attended school, where we were encouraged and learned to use both the form and function of words and language in the practice of spelling and comprehension. And it would seem we have been casting our spells and misspellings ever since. A study released on the 26th of August 2013 confirmed that language has the power to reshape our knowledge and expectations of the world we see. Our brains work together to interpret stimuli from the world around to create reality. Language and self-talk intercept and reshape our perceptions. This is what's referred to as top-down processing. Interestingly enough, another published article that same day referred to the dispositional attitudes of individuals that would determine whether someone and why some people love everything and others hate everything. Now, before we begin, I myself are eternally grateful for the invention of autocorrect, so this certainly isn't a grammar lesson. Instead, I want to practically explore and discuss the power of words in popular vernacular, how we relate to them, how we define them, and ultimately how they may affect the world we live in. Okay, to keep this somewhat structured but then at the same time as a freestyle, I've got some notes of the words that I'm going to be dissecting and playing around with, just to really stop me from drifting off the point, but at the same time give us a framework to kind of work from and a reference point throughout. So the first two pairings of words I think have a massive sway on the way that we live our life is the way we define arrogance and confidence. Arrogance being defined as offensive display of superiority, of self-importance, of overbearing pride, a manifest feeling of one's superiority, of one's importance, combined with contempt for others. Confidence is defined with self-reliance, sure of oneself, fully assured, having strong belief in one's power or abilities. Now it's ironic. One, you could honestly say a lot of us, maybe all of us to some degree, feel we could have more of, and one is a fear or an observation that we throw around quite a lot that's quite distasteful, right? The difference between confidence and arrogance is a difference between something that is vibrating outwards and it's infectious and it vibrates everyone else in the room and can change the state of a room. One is a bad smell and a bit like a fart in the room. It's very clear there's a difference between them. But unless we've ever kind of explored that for ourselves or our own associations to them, they can sometimes be blanketed for the same thing. In a case where we might see someone who is generally being confident, we may perceive them as being arrogant. A bit, oh, that wanker over there, look how arrogant they are. When in theory or in practice, they are in their root cause just being confident, right? So arrogance, offensive display of one's self-importance. Well, confidence starts by saying self-reliant and sure of oneself. So where does the line of arrogance start? And where does confidence begin, and vice versa? You know, are they the same thing? Well, dictionary definition, no, they're not the same thing. The important bit to note in the definition is, with arrogance, it's one's worth or importance or superiority combined with contempt for others, meaning there's a complete disregard and kind of ill intention in some ways towards others around. And we know this, I think, instinctively. You know, I think on some level we always know someone who's being genuinely confident and someone who's being arrogant. But if we don't really get that understanding for ourselves, then as I said, they can be blanketed together and we could kind of represent someone as being more arrogant when they are in fact just being confident. But the key phrase I feel that kind of splits them two hairs is that word, contempt for others. Because someone who's confident is sure in oneself. It's an internal power they have, you know, like a good stance that they kind of hold themselves in. And they are sure of oneself. They do have strong belief in their own powers and abilities. The offensive display of the superiority, I guess, is that arrogance will come at no cost. You know, that kind of turn the nose up or look down the nose, or But everybody wants more confidence. Everybody says, oh, I wish I was more confident, or I would do X, Y, Z if I was more confident. No one really goes, if I was more arrogant, then I would do X, Y, and Z. Anytime that we have feelings within ourselves or situations that may ask for confidence, if we have a bad representation or idea of what these two mean, we might sabotage or avoid this purely because we feel we're being arrogant. Don't get too confident because you're arrogant. But these lines couldn't be more different. And as I said, I feel confidence is one of those things where you meet someone who's confident within themselves. It's internal, but it kind of erupts around the room. So this could be like, in a social setting, or this could just be on a first impression. That energetics, the subtleties of how they're coming across is almost like an internal to external projection. Whereas I feel with arrogance, it's always the other way around. There's an external kind of projection onto people. Confident and successful people, to someone who's projecting maybe fears of their own association towards that, will see that as arrogant. But don't get me wrong, there are some arrogant, successful people. And there's a lot of people that will say to be successful at some level, or to get what you want at some level, you must have some sense of arrogance, which I don't always believe, because I feel that because confidence is almost like the opposite track next to it, so close together, you can be confident without having contempt for others. Meaning that you do feel special, you do have your own personal power, you think you are the bee's knees, but not over the price of anybody else. So you're an energy system, you're a ball of energy, of positivity, or of confidence, or belief, or accountability, and you engage with other people. You're not trying to put the other people down to make yourself burn brighter, which is what sometimes arrogant people will do, right? It's because they're so inflated that they look down at everybody else and they're, it's that idea that they are the centre of attention. But to be confident in some area, you must realise that you have to be the centre of attention. You must be focusing your attention on the important things and the beliefs and the encouragement to make you feel confident. So how do I get more confidence? Well, by practicing some form or some exercise, just as we did with spelling, on becoming confident, affirming your power and your abilities, practicing being self-assured. And it doesn't come easy. Even confident people will not always be confident. It's just an adjective that we use to describe, particularly in this instance, the way I'm using the word, how we describe personalities, persona or energy in some way. Powerful words to start with, because just by getting clear on what they mean to you and what one is and what one isn't, is the difference between changing your life profoundly. Because if you've always been worried about you being too self-reliant, you being too sure of yourself, you actually having a natural idea and understanding of your abilities and power, if you've associated that to that's arrogant, then you are never going to be confident. Because every time you do, you're going to be naughty, right? You're going to be the arrogance, you're going to be the fart in the room. Aggressive, assertive. It's a tough one, and this one is a tough one, because when I was looking at some of the simple definitions, again, just like confidence and arrogance, there's like just one fine whisker that if you're not paying attention, you won't even realise. But again, it's not about a grammar lesson, it's not about relearning words that you use, but more your relationship to the words you use. What have you identified, what are the images, what is the self-talk, what are the experiences potentially that you've moulded together, or we've moulded together, to create this relationship to the words we use. It goes back up to the top again. Confidently aggressive or self-assured. Having a distinctive or pronounced taste or aroma. Positive, full of assertion, insisting on one's rights or authority. Now, aggressiveness couldn't really find too much to apply in this instance, because again, aggressive can be used in different fields like military, right, medical, lots of different ways. But as an adjective, tending to make the first attack unprovoked offences. Assertive, confidently aggressive or self-assured, insisting on one's rights or authority. Aggressive, tending to make the first attack unprovoked offences. So you can see why that's saved for being used as a decisive way of trying to win. If someone's aggressive on the football field, or they're aggressive in business, or they're aggressive in sport, then that tends to mean that they're making the first attack, that they are out to win at all costs. Which again, in certain aspects, that's a really positive trait to have, right? You don't want to be, I'm quite assertive in a sporting background. I'm assertive and I ask for the ball. It doesn't really work that way. But again, these are two words where I feel there's some areas in our life, if we don't understand and connect with these words and relate to them in our own personal way, then we may never be assertive in certain situations because we're scared of coming across aggressive. If situations around us are calling for us to be assertive, assertive when it comes to things like work, when it comes to relationships and dating, business, so many different things that you could, or sport, a great example, as I said, because teams that come out and they show aggressive tend to do quite well in sport, because sport is about channeling the raw emotions connected to the physical movements of a sport that's competitive. So, someone being aggressive on a football field or on a sporting background isn't the same as someone being aggressive, in day-to-day relationships or in, personal life. If you've got low confidence, you're probably not going to be very assertive. And if you've got a high level of arrogance, it's safe to say you might have tens of aggressiveness. Next two words. Nice. Genuine. Now, I may never have known this if I didn't have access to the internet. I would have had to go to a library. But the etymology of the word nice has had such a PR campaign over the centuries that it's almost comical in the weight that we use this word in popular vernacular. It's crazy. So today, in today's world, nice, nice hair. Oh, you look nice. I'm just trying to be nice. So where's all the nice guys gone? Where's all the nice girls gone? That idea, nice, pleasing, agreeable, delightful. You go back as late as the 12th century, we're looking at a completely different usage of the word, which means that in communication, in spelling, in casting it out, people would have had a very different response, right? The 12th century, careless, clumsy, weak, poor, needy, simple, stupid and silly. And then they thought of 13th century, foolish, ignorant, frivolous and senseless. That's mind-blowing when you really think about it, right? So there's so many people want to be perceived as nice, so try so hard to limit maybe their own authenticity in order to be nice or be perceived as nice. And really they're trying to be foolish, they're trying to be ignorant, they're frivolous and they're senseless. So when you say to someone, yeah, nice jacket, you're saying, yeah, it's a really frivolous fucking jacket you bought yourself there. Strange, right? But now we wouldn't, because a lot of people would like to be called as an adjective nice or referred to as nice. So that is a really powerful word when you think about it, because of this PR campaign, it's completely changed. If you would have called someone in the 13th century walking down a little French village and you would have gone, yeah, you look nice. Socially, it would have been a very, very different thing. Would you have got the smiles? Oh, thanks. Oh, I really need to hear that I look nice. Or would you have just got to do what? Because the PR of the word changes, our association over time changes, our vernacular changes, and the social kind of usage of the word amplifies. Genuine, possessing the claimed or attributed character, quality, origin, not counterfeit, free from pretense, affectation, or hypocrisy. If you're being genuine, you're not counterfeiting your own feelings. You're not counterfeiting your own injustices. You're not counterfeiting any other situation, because it's coming from the source, it's coming from the origin. Whereas genuine people are not always nice. What were the genuine, possessing the acclaimed, attributed character, quality or origin, not counterfeit? That kind of means to me that someone's genuine. It's almost like you could go 100 lifetimes and never meet that same person again, right? That's the idea of difference between meeting a genuine person that really can connect with you, or make a bond, or have great memories, share joy, share compassion. And the difference between just meeting a nice person. Oh, it's that person you work with. Oh yeah, nice, yeah. It's the magnolia of words, isn't it? But I just find that very interesting, that those two different things, they're words that we use all the time. Okay, in this case more probably the first one than the second one, but our relationship and connection to them couldn't be more important or influential in our lives, right? Focus more on being genuine, of having your sense of origin, on not counterfeiting who you are and what you do and what you're about, and you stick to that. And if that means in some cases you're not nice and not always agreeable and not always pleasing, then that's fine. At least you are coming from a place of not counterfeiting those feelings. Whereas nice, I think it's a sneaky word because we're using it all the time. It's one of those vague words that we all use, but until we get that personal understanding of these words, it has the power, right, to rule a life. Oh, next one, happiness, fulfillment. Happiness defined as good fortune, pleasure, contentment, joy, pleased, glad, delighted. Fulfillment defined as bringing into actuality, affect or make real, to meet a requirement or condition, to satisfy. Now, another two words that are so important. What's the meaning of life? Oh, I just want to be happy, to be happy. It's one of those words, just like nice, that's thrown around a hell of a lot. We all want to be happy, right? We all want good fortune, pleasure, contentment, joy, pleased, to be glad, and to be delighted. Sometimes people get to certain stages in a pursuit of happiness, or think that happiness is a place that you get to, right? Good fortune is a place that you get to. It's not always the way that life works, right? You can have bouts of good fortune and somewhat seeming bad fortune. The contentment, the joy, is almost like a destination for a lot of people to travel. So it's not uncommon that, if we've associated in our mind that happiness comes from X, Y, Z, money, from this, from that, from anything external, then potentially run the risk of getting to that place. But what do we often say when that happens? Not fulfilled. And I've always found that quite an interesting thing, where I've coached individuals or working with individuals where you say, on this side of the paper, on paper, you have all the reasons to be happy, right? You're good fortune, you've got good fortune, there's pleasure within your life, there's contentment, there's joy, but maybe that person doesn't feel much personal fulfillment or connection to that. One of the most important parts, I think, of personal development is that it's really getting clear on what's happiness and what's fulfillment, and where do they cross and where do they meet. Being something so different, to bring into actuality, affect or make real, to meet the requirements or conditions, to satisfy. So, if you're satisfied, you're also pleased, you're delighted. So a lot of these words, they do dance together. That's the point of language. They weave like a piece of wool. To bring into actuality is the part that kind of fascinates me, is that fulfillment is that there was, you manifested, you connect, you create and affect or make real. So these could be dreams. Happiness, I think, is another one of those words like nice, where we all have our own personal connection to it, but then there's that social use of it, right? You happy? Oh, it's good to see you happy. But some people, we're not happy all the time, and the door closes and the four walls come in, and we're not happy. We don't feel like there's fortune, we don't feel like there's pleasure, there's contentment. A big part of personal fulfillment, coaching or personal development, you see it in spiritual circles, kind of new age, or even just somebody, personally who likes psychology or philosophy or somewhat of a thinker, probably have stumbled across that thing, what is happiness, what does it mean to me, what is fulfillment. So a lot of the times when you work to fulfillment, naturally in the process of working towards your personal fulfillment, your personal dreams, bringing them into actuality, it could be having a great family, it could be being a great husband, a great wife, it could be a career thing, it could be experience based, whatever that is, you're working en route, an ongoing process to bring it into effect or to actuality. And en route of that, you will experience more sense of good fortune, of pleasure, and you have more chance of being happy. Whereas I think that the association between happy being a destination on a train track and fulfillment are two different things, and another powerful grouping of words that has the power, right, by our own association to control the world we live in. Next on the notes, what we got? Oh yeah, this was a good one. But again, I think the best ones were the first ones. These ones here were just sort of ones I grabbed upon, because again I thought They do have slightly different meanings, and what we relate to them can influence maybe what we see. Attention, intention. Attention, the act or faculty of attending, especially by directing the mind to an object. Intention, an act or instance of determining mentally upon some action or result. Purpose, attitude towards the effect of one's action or conduct. We live in a world where attention is monetized. Attention is something that we, again, is a massive human need. A need for significance can manifest as a form of attention, right? You have to have eyes, or the mind in this instance as it's defined, to be drawn upon us is a great feeling. That is something that as humans we really like. We liked it when we was a child, we maybe grow in adulthood not to like that in some ways, to avoid attention and to hide away from attention, but some form of attention, right? Some sort of directing of a mind or a group of minds to us is a positive feeling a lot of the time. So in this sort of culture where the social media kind of world is all geared towards likes and views, which means that it's all about drawing focus from where the head is here. Let's be honest, it's probably already looking down at the phone, but the instance is it's here, and we look up, get that attention. That's a view, that's a click, that's a like. We all can be honest with ourselves and say that our attention span, probably in the last 10-15 years, it has probably got shocking. Some people really misrepresent attention for intention. So they think, I'm getting all this attention, this must be good. But they're not able to see the intentions of individuals or situations that maybe kind of go against what initially the attention was paying into. As stated in this video, it wasn't aimed as a literacy or grammar lesson. Instead, it aims to serve as a means to encourage those who are seeking to transform, transmute and optimize the world around them, to identify and acknowledge the large portion that starts with our language, associations and our spells. I'm sure you may have your own associations to the words picked in this video. If so, I would invite you, as nothing more than a thought experiment, to explore further your relationship to them. You may even find some that I didn't cover that have significance or prevalence within our life. Success, failure, love, lust. Even though we may speak the same languages, it doesn't always mean we associate by default the same things to them. Some of our greatest pain in life comes from our miscommunications with ourselves and others. So by refining and refocusing on our personal vernacular and vocabulary, we develop a sense of clarity that ultimately can begin to use our language as a tool that serves as opposed to hinders us.